Hey everybody, it's me, Kai Man, and I want to talk to you today about how we perpetuate a certain stereotype or belief over and over and over and over and over throughout time or throughout a particular period. And the one thing that I'm going to start with is sexuality, and I'm going to start with that only because that's what I know of. So let's say 1997, I came out as being lesbian. So I came out in 1997, and it was kind of like a schooling, so to speak, and it was a schooling every day after. But I remember I was living in Chicago at the time, and I lived with a roommate who was straight, and at the time didn't know, that I had really come out. So I hadn't really come out to her as of yet, but I was kind of delving into the LGBT community. And so as soon as I got to Chicago, I met this couple, and I won't say the couple's name, but because they're no longer together anyway, but I met this couple and they were amazing. They loved their city, Chicago. They took me around Chicago, and the one who I would say was the more dominant one, because her wife worked a lot, she talked to me a lot. I was kind of like, even though I was older than them, I was a baby in the LGBT community. So they could pretty much, she pretty much kind of told me how things was, and asking me who do I think I am. I'm like, I don't know, shoot, I just came in this. I'm like a day old, like a newborn baby that just had been born. So she started kind of telling me how the community works, and basically what I learned was in the African American community, and she didn't say this specifically, but this is what I found out throughout the years. In the African American LGBT community, there has been a history of a simulation of man and woman, which means there's always a stud and there's always a femme. And so back then, at that particular time, you see femmes together, but you really didn't. Studs back then would kind of disregard the femme, whoever was a little bit more aggressive, and kind of still try and holler at the more feminine woman. But anyway, I remember being told all these different things about how a stud had to be and how a femme had to be, and it was like some rules to this shit. And I was like, wow, learning all this stuff, and I'm like, okay, so there left no room in between being anything other than either stud or either femme. And so the more I became, the more, longer that I was in the community, I held such beliefs as a certain way only because of what I was taught within the community. It kind of makes you think of when you grow up, how whatever it is that your parents believe, or the adults around you believe, who's ever your guardian, your parents that are raising you, they teach you to believe as they believe. And so that's the same thing with the LGBT community. And so I felt like, when I first came out, I was this femme. I was a femme only because, I had been in a marriage, I have kids. So, I was kind of, thinking, I guess that's, how I want to portray myself. But the longer that I was in the community, I say probably 6, 7, 8 months down the line, my whole identity kind of shifted, because I leaned more to a masculine side. And so, which at the time I was in a relationship with a masculine woman, and so it became a conflict, part of a conflict. There was some other shit that was going on, but it became part of a conflict because I began being more masculine. So anyway, cut off all my hair, nose ring, whatever, all these different things. So as time goes on and you're in these stereotypical relationships, not really knowing who it is that you are, and certain people do certain things, I'm not really aware of what other people did in their relationships. But I think that as I grew, I realized that I didn't want to be called a label, because I felt like I wasn't stud all the time, but I most definitely wasn't femme. And so I didn't want to be where others quote unquote studs would be looking at me and saying, well, she's not hard enough, or she's not, you know, masculine enough, or she's not this, or she's not that. And so I took on what I would perceive to be a more androgynous role, you know, especially in my latter, probably the last, I don't know, 5-6 years. And I think sometimes when we're portraying these roles, we really totally forget exactly who it is that we are. And then it's not until we want to begin to study who it is that we are that we begin to take off some of the clothing, or some of the mask, or some of the, you know, appearances that we were conditioned to believe, and began to, you know, portray these particular roles. And so I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this. I'm going to delve more into this a little bit later. And I'm hoping that I can get my tribe to actually, us to sit down and have a conversation about this, only because this is one of the topics for a daily conversation that I had listed out in the, you know, end of the year. But I want to get their perspectives and seeing how it is that, you know, they think about certain things as well, and how it was for them, how they came to be in a more masculine identified world, so to speak. But the rules and how things, you know, how they have you to be, sometimes you don't fit within those confines. Sometimes it's hard, and you're trying to be a certain thing that you're not, you know, when you're not quite the other thing either. You kind of sit in the middle of both of those things. But, you know, the world, the LGBT world, or any world, pretty much says you have to be one thing or the other. I've never liked the term I'm always the same. Well, good for you, and I don't know how you're able to always be the same, because I don't wake up the same person every day. There's new things that happen. There's things that happened yesterday that I've learned and had to, you know, adjust or change my way of thinking to. So I'm quite naturally not ever the same. And so living in this particular world, at some particular time, I didn't want to just say that I was LGBT, because I felt like I didn't fit all the way in there, and I couldn't say that I was straight because I don't want to be with a man and I don't fit in there. And so I even stopped going to church, only because when I was going to a straight church, they were always talking about homosexuality when you walk into the room, which is crazy. But then on the term, when you're at a LGBT church, all they talk about to me was being gay. And it was such a refreshing part of me when I first went to church and was able to hear Darlene speak. And she didn't talk about that whole gay thing. You know, she talked about God and what God meant, you know, within our lives. And so that was better. But then I ended up moving. So anyway, just a little bit, you know, I would just want to scratch the surface a little bit, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later. I'm headed somewhere, and I just really want to get that out. Now, if you are in the LGBT community, or you know of someone that's in the LGBT community, tag them in this video, share it, whatever, and let's talk about these roles, not just within the LGBT community, also within the heterosexual community, because, you know, there are roles and there are rules and guidelines that we have just messed up society in a whole with these rules and these guidelines, where men have to dress a certain way, or they have to be, you know, women have to be ultra feminine, or men have to be just so masculine to it's, you know, it's crazy. And, you know, you can't have any other thing. I'll share something really quick with you. Recently, I had the opportunity of spending time with some family, and it made me realize how we really raise our children, and how whatever it is that we think, you could tell what people really are dealing with, because they portray those things upon their kids. And so we'll get into that. I'll save this for another one, just to hang on and have you, you know, kind of check out the next video that I post. But yeah, if you have LGBT people who you know and you feel like, you know, they too have maybe discussed this with you about being in that whole role thing, or maybe you're LGBT and you don't believe in that whole role shit, you know, comment below. Let me hear what you guys think. Let me know what's going on within your heads and in your lives, and what you've had to kind of change about yourself, or either recognize about yourself. leave a comment. Make sure that you guys go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Kai Man on YouTube. You can also do Kaiology Man as well. It'll come up. And then make sure that you go and check out my IGTV, or as I like to call it, Kai TV. But anyway, check that out and find me on Facebook as well. I'm Kai Man or Kaiology as well. So either one. Check me out. Peace. Deuces. Love y'all. Have a great one.